Hello, everybody. It's me, Jennifer, again. Today I'm here to talk to you about effective peer review practices. So I'm sure, again, you've all had experience with peer editing and peer reviewing other people's papers, okay? So a lot of this video today might serve as kind of a reminder of what makes really effective practices. So I'm going to pull up a PowerPoint again, and we're going to talk about some general things, and then we're going to look at two examples of what's some maybe less than helpful feedback and what's some more helpful feedback. Okay, let's get this pulled up for you folks. Okay, here we go. So, effective peer review. Okay, so one of the first things that you want to do when you are peer reviewing somebody's paper is consider your context. In other words, what is the assignment? What are they being asked to do? Especially if you're in the same class with somebody, just take a look and reread the assignment real quick. A lot of times we kind of forget what we're doing partially through, and we want to go back and review it. So reread the prompt. Consider both the audience and the purpose of the paper. Who are you writing to? What's your purpose? You want to keep that information in mind when you're providing feedback, because right now you're reading it, but you want to read it from the perspective of whoever the audience is. Okay, so if your audience is your professor, great. If your audience is the general public, great. If your audience is the rest of your class, that's perfect, because that is exactly you, okay? When we talk about kind of giving feedback on papers, we have two different categories that we really think about, okay? The one that you want to focus on at this stage in your process is your global issues. Global issues are the big ones. These affect your overall understanding and the overall meaning of your paper. These are things like the thesis. What is the thesis? Okay, these are things like your focus. Does the paper stay focused through the entire piece, or do you start to get lost partially through it? It's the development. How does the development look? Could they add in a couple more examples or some more evidence or something that helps support what they're saying? How about the organization? Does it make sense, or does it kind of shift around and jump from topic to topic? The other aspect, and these are the ones that you want to think about when you're close to turning it in. You want to get all of your content ready. Everything looks good, and then you go back and you look at your local issues. These ones affect specific sentences, and it's usually kind of editing and proofreading. It's looking for misspellings. It's looking for punctuation issues. It's looking for maybe words that are misused, but it's specific to individual sentences rather than the overall understanding of the paper. Those are oftentimes the easiest things to give feedback on, but it's kind of a waste of time to do it early on in the process, because you don't know how much those individual sentences are going to be edited for the other issues, right? If they have global issues to work on, if you give them feedback on a specific sentence that maybe they wind up cutting, well, then that's kind of a waste of your time and their time. Okay, so when you're giving feedback, unless you are near the point of submission, focus on the global issues rather than the local issues. So here's a couple tips, okay? Respond as a reader. In other words, you don't have to be an expert at writing in order to give good feedback. Look at the places where things don't make sense, okay? Look at the places where things don't read smoothly. Look at the places where you just get a little bit confused. Okay, point those things out. Be positive in your feedback. So point out strengths as well as weaknesses. If you see something that you really like, that they've done really well, tell them that. Be like, man, this is a great paragraph. You've done an awesome job developing this. There's lots of good examples from the text, etc. Okay, tell them those good things. But also be sensitive in how you phrase criticism. Okay, that might be saying something like, could you clarify this sentence, rather than, what do you mean? Or, why did you say this? Okay, think about if you were talking to that person, right? If they're sitting right across from you, how would you say that? Would you tell them, this sentence makes no sense? Or would you say, I'm not quite sure what you're trying to say here? Okay. Our third tip is be honest. Don't say something works if it doesn't. You're not helping somebody if you avoid mentioning a problem. Okay. If you see something that particularly stands out to you, or even doesn't particularly stand out, but just is there, tell them about it. Okay. Again, be positive, be sensitive, but tell them. And the last one, and honestly, this is probably the most helpful tip, be specific. So rather than saying a paragraph is confusing, for example, point to a specific phrase or a specific sentence or something and try to explain, why is it confusing? Is it confusing because of the organization? Because one sentence was about one thing, then the next sentence moves to the next, and then they go back to that first topic, right? Then you could just tell them, this sentence doesn't feel like it belongs, okay? Could you move it maybe to another paragraph or to later in that paragraph? Or if the wording of a sentence isn't quite clear, tell them, this sentence in particular, I don't quite get what you're saying, okay? But be specific with that feedback. Don't just say, I don't get it, okay? Try to figure out, what is it that you don't get? Okay, so I want to point out two things here, okay? I've highlighted, so these are actual paragraphs written by a first-year student, okay? I don't have the context, I don't have the prompt, okay? But these are written by a first-year student for a first-year writing course. I've highlighted a section on here, okay? And I've given you two examples. One of these examples is kind of less than positive or less than helpful feedback, okay? And this one tells us, connect these ideas. There's not much here, okay? They might be looking at it saying, but I thought these ideas are connected, okay? This topic gives us more information. I'm telling this person, okay, I can see the connection here, okay? But right now, it's not super clear. It seems like we're moving from it's like an abrupt shift from one topic, right, overspending, into a new topic of the spending of higher education versus the spending of private institutions, okay? Later in the paragraph, this connection is more clearly spelled out, okay? And it is down here. All these extra costs are reflected through tuition increases, but if they add a sentence or two, or even a phrase that helps connect these two ideas earlier on in the paragraph becomes stronger, okay? So I'm trying to tell them here, here's what I'm seeing here. These don't quite make sense to me. I need to see a single sentence or phrase that connects these two, okay? And I've told them the two issues that I see are overspending and public versus private education, okay? That way when my reader is looking at this, they're not like, wait, aren't these the same idea? Okay. So, and another one, this is from the exact same paper, okay? And again, we've got a couple of different things in here. Here's one that just says add more, okay? Add more what? What might this be interesting? What could somebody add here? So here, though, I've been more specific. This is really interesting, okay? So adding a little more information, like how has this debt become a political issue? Would adding that help strengthen their point? Okay, and I'll be honest, it might not, because I don't know what the political issue is. It might not relate to what it is that they're talking about. It might be more effective for this writer to take the sentence out, okay? But right now, from what I have, I'm saying maybe add a little bit more about this specific thing in order to help them strengthen that point. So this type of feedback, okay, adding a little more information, developing this idea, could even be add another example, something like that. Those are specific details that help your writer, that help the person you're giving feedback to. So lastly, what I've included in here, and that you'll be able to go back and look at, is these are some questions to help you look at specific ideas. You don't have to use these questions. And in fact, sometimes your professors will give you specific questions they want you to be looking at. But if you're ever given just a general peer review this person's paper, and you get stuck on it, okay, come back and look at these things, okay? Look for these things of, what is the thesis? Can you find their thesis? Do you know what it is? Does it achieve the purpose of the paper? Okay, is it detailed? Is it specific? Things like that. And lastly, this last page gives us a little bit more information specific to some, excuse me for that. So this one gives us a little bit more information specific to our introduction, our conclusion, and then lastly, our grammar and mechanics. One of the things that I like to note for grammar and mechanics, if you choose to add some comments on this, don't correct the sentences. Note them, circle them, maybe even say what it is, like comma splice or run-on sentence. But don't correct it for them, because correcting it doesn't help them learn it, okay? And ideally, your feedback should be helping your fellow classmates learn how to make those revisions themselves. Okay, I believe that is the end of that particular slideshow. If you ever have any questions about how to give somebody effective feedback, or you're working through it and you want someone to kind of chat with you about what's a nice way to say this, okay? Or can you help me find something positive about this paper? Things like that. Again, feel free to shoot me an email. Feel free to make a Zoom meeting with me and we will talk through that. Otherwise, keep in mind those tips. Be sensitive, be honest, and be specific. The specificity is one of the biggest things that you can do to help people in order to give effective peer comments. Okay, have a wonderful day.